Good morning and welcome to WorldLink's 17th Annual Youth Town Meeting, hosted by the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice at the University of San Diego's Kroc School of Peace Studies. I hope you all enjoyed breakfast and are ready for an eye-opening and intriguing experience, full of discussions and new ideas. My name is Maya Lakshman and I'm currently a senior at La Jolla High School.
And my name is Adrian Estrada. I attend Cetis Universidad, Tijuana, and I'm also a senior. This year's student selected theme is Global Conflicts, Human Impact, Human Solutions. Throughout the day, you will have the opportunity to participate in meaningful discussions and conversations with leading experts and specialists in the field of international relations, as well as with one another.
Together, you will explore various facets of global conflicts, such as the impact it has on poverty and hunger, global health, environment and land, human protection, and peace processes. WorldLink has inspired Adrian and I, as youth, to take action in our communities and take a stand on important issues that affect our society and world today. We sincerely hope that today will inspire you to do the same.
As you attend different sessions or engage in various dialogue, tweet about it, Instagram it. Use the different hashtags available in your conference program so that we can share this experience with youth around the world. All we ask is that you not use your phones while our distinguished guest speakers give their presentations here in the plenary and later in our breakout sessions. As a courtesy to all attendees, please also make sure that your phones are on silent.
And as a second reminder, please make sure that you hold on to your tote bag throughout the day. You each received a pen, which you may use to write your name on the tag inside. But now, on to our feature presentation.
It is a great honor for Maya and I to introduce WorldLink's 2014 Youth Town Meeting speakers, who have traveled far and wide to be here today. Please join us in welcoming them. For our distinguished guest speakers, when we call your name, please stand at your seat.
Anita Raj from the UCSD Center on Gender Equity and Health.
Annie Kim from UNICEF.
Neshla Shurji from the USD Kroc School of Peace Studies.
Chris Besnecker from Project Concern International.
Chris Groth and Zara Ismail from the Joan B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice.
Christy Edwards from American Red Cross.
Dania Al-Kabani and Sarah Farouk from National University Academy.
David Joseph from Northern Uganda Medical Mission.
Ephraim Beiser from the Congo Leadership Initiative.
Emily Emmons-Poli from the USD Department of International Relations and Political Science.
Katie Baxter from Qualcomm, Inc.
Lauren Kent Delaney from the Carr Center.
Rebecca Trotsky and Sophie Westacott from the Program for Torture Victims.
Cedric Morhula from the Young African Refugees for Integral Development.
And Wesley Farrow from the Robert F. Kennedy Center for Justice and Human Rights.
A big thank you to all of your distinguished guests. We would now like to welcome Freda Aguilar from the San Diego School of Creative and Performing Arts and Nicole Ann Lobo from Cathedral Catholic High School.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to WorldLink's 17th Annual Youth Town Meeting. My name is Nicole Ann Lobo, and I am a junior at Cathedral Catholic High School.
And my name is Frida Aguilar, and I'm also a junior from San Diego School of Creative and Performing Arts.
This past fall, Frida and I served as research interns for the WorldLink program, and we realized something pretty quickly at the beginning of our term. For everyone in this audience, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever wanted to make a difference in the world? Exactly. Since I was young, I always knew that there were a lot of problems in the world, and I always wanted to make a change. But I thought that I was the only person who felt this way, and that I had no way of creating a real difference. However, when I began to attend WorldLink events and became a WorldLink intern, I realized just how wrong I was. There is so much that we can do to help make this world a better place.
And now each of you have taken the first step, sitting here right now with more than 700 other global-minded students beside you is probably the best thing you could be doing. Today, you will have the opportunity to hear from amazing speakers in the fields of global affairs, whose stories and experiences will inform and inspire you on how you can personally make a difference in our local and global communities. Throughout the day, you will learn about some of the terrible injustices our world faces, but you will also learn about the wonderful efforts being done to address and ultimately diminish them. And hopefully, after the day is through, you will be inspired to take action and to change the world in your own way.
Right now, you may still be wondering, why am I here? To put it simply, all of us are here to potentially absorb information that will serve us and the world around us in great ways. Throughout today's conference, you will encounter topics of peace, development, education, conflict, and security. Today, you will have the opportunity to step outside your comfort zone, connect with high school students from both sides of the US-Mexico border, and expand your outlook on global issues. Hopefully, you are able to walk away from this event with a new and stronger interest in the world and our global community.
As stated in your program, this year's WorldLink's theme is Global Conflicts, Human Impacts, Human Solutions, chosen by last year's conference attendees, high school students from all over San Diego and Baja, Mexico. You might already be familiar with the 2014 online WorldLink Reader, an excellent student-produced resource used to delineate the multitude of topics that will be discussed today. It offers an in-depth preview to the human impacts and solutions associated with worldwide conflicts. However, don't worry if you haven't read it, because today's event will actively inform you, give you a chance to talk, hear, and work with amazing guest speakers who are experts in the topics and subtopics of this year's Youth Town meeting.
Now, as we enter the day's activities, it is important to remember that global conflicts is an incredibly large and diverse topic in and of itself. From uprisings in the Middle East to the use of child soldiers in Africa and Latin America, there are several horrible occurrences worldwide that we may hear about but could not imagine. There are also conflicts or cases of armed conflict that we have never even heard about. With hundreds of thousands of women and children being trafficked and sexually exploited each year, environmental atrocities caused by brutal warfare, and the poverty epidemic plaguing millions of people, to name just a few, there is a lot that goes unseen.
Today, you will see that the sessions you attend have been divided into 5 subtopics: poverty and hunger, global health, environment, land, and human protection, and peace processes. Although these concepts may seem so distant, they each impact us in one way or another, whether we realize it or not. These injustices are not confined to only one part of the world. In turn, we are all impacted. As you might imagine, something must be done to break the cycle.
As we all know, often the most destructive force and biggest threat to humanity is the human race itself. You will see on your program and tote bag the visual of a gun. However, there is a knot at the end. The knot represents the idea of putting an end to conflict. On the color program, people begin to appear where the knot emerges, showing the true reason why conflict must end. We are also the most powerful solution to our own problems. There is a lot that we can do to achieve positive change in our world and help make it the greatest place that it can be. This is your chance to learn how you can do this. Be the change that the world needs.
And being here right now is absolutely one of the best ways to utilize your time, knowledge, and resources. So get excited. Today, you will have the opportunity to meet influential leaders in the field and also get to meet people from over 35 schools and youth organizations from all over San Diego, Mexico, and other parts of the world. Build new friendships, network, and spread ideas. Take advantage of this great opportunity. Talk to speakers one-on-one, share opinions with one another, and most importantly, allow yourself to discover the power that lies within you.
But don't let your experience end today after leaving the University of San Diego campus. Rather, today is just a beginning. The United Nations estimates that approximately 61 million children and teenagers our age do not receive an education. Thus, every single person in this room has powerful tools at their disposal that others only yearn for. We are so fortunate to have it. So take the knowledge and experiences you receive today and make use of it. Make dreams, plan big, and make your dreams a reality. We hope that by the end of today, you will be informed, inspired, and motivated to act. Thank you.
Now we would like to introduce your opening moderator for the opening plenary. Please welcome Kira Elliott from San Diego Academy.
Hello, my name is Kira Elliott. I'm a senior at San Diego Academy, and I will be your moderator for the opening panel, Global Conflicts, Human Impact. We have three incredible panelists this morning who will each introduce the current work they are doing in their respective fields. Afterwards, we will open the floor for questions, so feel free to write down any questions that you have during the plenary. It is now my great pleasure to welcome our first panelist, Anita Raj. Anita Raj is a professor in the Division of Global Public Health at the University of California, San Diego. She also serves as director of UCSD's Center on Gender Equity and Health. For the past 20 years, Dr. Raj has been involved with various community-based organizations working for immigrant rights and against gender-based violence. Currently, Dr. Raj has projects related to adolescent girls' early marriage and reproductive and maternal health. These programs include sexual violence prevention programs and HIV prevention and test and treatment interventions. She also has projects related to immigrant and refugee health. Her current research is based in South Asia, Russia, and the United States. Please join me in welcoming Anita Raj.
Thanks, Kira, and thanks to WorldLink for inviting me. I was really excited to get invited, not just because it's an opportunity to speak to youth about what we're doing, but also because it seems that the youth from WorldLink really wanted to know more about global health. And I think that's really exciting because global health is viewed as a pretty new area of focus in the world. It came out of public health. Public health is taking health issues and looking at them at the population level, so that rather than individual medical or mental health, rather than an individually based response on health concerns, it was really looking at when you see health issues in the aggregate affecting a population or a subpopulation, how can you address those concerns in the aggregate? How can you shift and improve the health, the well-being of people in masses, because masses are being damaged by major issues in the world: poverty, violence, climate change. These are major global health concerns that this field is really working towards addressing. Well, when you look at issues like that, you cannot just take one approach. You can't just come at it from the perspective of medicine or just from the perspective even of engineering. We really are an interdisciplinary field, and so that's one of the reasons I think it's really exciting, because it's open to anyone regardless of the kind of interest you have. Do you love math? Do you love engineering? Global health has ample opportunity. We want to understand, how do we affect climate change? An example of that is in India. It's very common to use something called chullas, which are these stoves that release huge amounts of carbon into the atmosphere. The numbers in India are such that if we could reduce the carbon emissions from just those stovetops alone, we could affect carbon emissions for the country and globally have an impact. So how can engineers help us make better chullas, better stovetops that are safe for people to use? Engineers are very important. For physicians, we need to know, we'll have malaria outbreaks. We need to be able to get mosquito nets, but we also need to be able to get medical care into rural areas. How can we train people that are local providers that may not have had, 4 years of medical training on top of a college education to be able to deliver the kind of medical services we need? This is a really important area where physicians and other health providers are really at the forefront. I'm trained as a psychologist. One of the things I'm really interested in, and many people who are like me are interested in, is as a psychologist, we want to understand behavior, right? So what we look at is, what are the things that help people's behavior change to engage in healthier practices? Things like smoking cessation. The rates of smoking have gone down dramatically in this country because of behavioral change solutions. And these are the kinds of things we're doing in public health. How does that apply to global health? Well, global health is public health thinking about two additional issues. One is, what's the resource environment? And two, what's the governmental and public health infrastructure? Because resources and infrastructure have dramatic impact on opportunity for change. And that's why we look at global health from the perspective of governments within countries that are affected by low resources and inadequate infrastructure, but at the same time, local communities that are affected by that. We often think about what needs to happen in Africa, but I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi. How many of you ever heard of Jackson, Mississippi? You should, if you grew up here, have heard of it because it's the state capital, but most people don't even remember that because we don't make the news very much from Jackson. When I grew up in the 70s and 80s, there was actually a situation where we had the highest infant mortality rate. I think it's gone down, we're now second highest. But at that time, one of the issues at hand was there was one medical provider, one OBGYN for a 3-county area. And in those 3 counties, there was the poorest county in the country where people in this country, not but a few decades ago, were taking cardboard to create their houses. So the issue of global health and what it means to have an absence or inadequate resources is something that is not only true outside the US, it's true in the US. We really look at how disenfranchisement of populations by inadequate resources, by unfair treatment and opportunity, by issues of conflict and instability impact health and impact it on a broad range of health issues. Because the solutions to achieve what we want to achieve cannot be done by working at an individual level. It has to be done by working at community levels, at state levels, at national levels, international levels, and globally. And none of that can happen without people engaging across multiple disciplines and people doing it across national boundaries. So I think this position of WorldLink is a really great thing. When I was growing up, we didn't have the same kind of opportunity to engage with people who had had experiences from around the world. What we can learn from each other to improve global health is substantial. And so what I hope, and I'm being much briefer, I think, because I'm going to have a session where I really talk about more of these issues. But what I hope you're hearing from this is that global health is an opportunity for you to engage in social change within the health arena, that it is an opportunity that you can engage with it regardless what your area of interest is. I work in child marriage. I'd never thought about child marriage. I knew my grandmothers had married at the ages of 13 and 15. I never thought about it until a human rights attorney looked at me and said, well, what is pedophilia if we think that marriage of a 13-year-old girl to a 25-year-old male is acceptable? Then what is pedophilia in that context? So this is an opportunity that no matter if you're interested in law, medicine, psychology, statistics, we use a lot of statistics, it's a place where you can engage, get your education, and participate in a process of global health solutions with a social change perspective. And I'm going to leave it at that, and if you have more questions about global health, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. Next, we have Annie Kim. Annie Kim serves as a Global Citizenship Fellow for the U.S. Fund for UNICEF, which works to improve children's lives by providing healthcare and immunizations, clean water and sanitation, nutrition, education, and emergency relief. Prior to her position in grassroots advocacy and community outreach with UNICEF, she interned for United Against Poverty and Disease, as well as for the Los Angeles office of Senator Barbara Boxer. She has worked with nonprofit organizations through which she also helped stage a free health fair for undeserved communities. Please join me in welcoming Annie Kim.
Thank you, Kira, and thank you, WorldLink. So, my name is Annie Kim. I'm the Global Citizenship Fellow for the U.S. Fund for UNICEF. The last 50 years have been a time of remarkable progress and strides in regard to children's survival. In half a century, we've seen the under 5 child mortality rate of preventable causes go from about 58,000 a day in the 1960s to 18,000. That's a decrease of over 2/3. UNICEF has contributed to this drastic decline with its innovative strategies and tireless push, driven by its belief that every child has the right to not only survive, but thrive. UNICEF, which stands for the United Nations Children's Fund, was created in 1946 in the aftermath of World War II, and has worked to save and improve the lives of children everywhere ever since then. It works in the areas of education, health, gender equality, child protection, and more. UNICEF vaccinates half the world's children, and fun fact, it's actually the #1 purchaser of pencils in the world. But UNICEF also has great influence with governments and is able to protect children top down by recommending and implementing laws that emphasize the rights of children. So for a child living in a place like Nepal or Sierra Leone, UNICEF could have a great impact on everything from his or her health, education, and the laws that are in place to protect that child. And it's safe to say that the world is a better place with UNICEF in it. Yet, 18,000 children dying every day of preventable causes is still a huge number to wrap your head around, especially when that number should be 0. Every 5 seconds, a child is dying from a lack of food, clean water, or from a disease that we already have a cure for. While the rest of the world is taking steps forward, we are leaving behind marginalized sections of our populations, forgetting those who should not be forgotten. These are the children living in conflict, in poverty, and ill health. Because of the luck of birth, there are children in places like Syria, the Central African Republic, and South Sudan who are deprived of basic rights like shelter, education, and food. We most definitely cannot control conflict, but we cannot ignore it either. This is where the need for global citizenship comes in. We are all united in our common humanity, and global citizens play a huge part in this. They are able to understand global interdependence, challenge injustice, and take action in a way that is personally meaningful. As globalization takes over the whole planet, daily decisions that we make about what kind of coffee we're going to drink or where we buy our clothes have ripple effects that reach children in far corners of the planet. In this sort of world, we can no longer ignore what goes on overseas. All of the world's children are our children, and UNICEF will always be there for them. When times are hard, however, children are often hit the hardest. Unlike adults, they aren't able to take care of themselves, provide for themselves, or protect themselves from those who would seek to exploit them. Children are especially vulnerable to hunger and the effects of poverty. If a child doesn't get the proper micronutrients, such as vitamin A and iron it needs for the age of 2, the child runs a very high risk of being stunted. Stunting or chronic malnutrition affects 1 out of 4 children under the age of 5 worldwide. When you're stunted, it means that your body stops growing at a certain age, and when that happens, you'll have a country full of 20-something-year-olds in the bodies of 8-year-olds. But stunting doesn't just affect your height, it affects your brain as well. A stunted child's brain will never develop or grow as it should, which means that they'll have a harder time in school, and they'll never be able to get a well-paying job to break them out of that cycle of poverty. And stunting can affect 3 generations as well, meaning that you, your child, and your child's child will be affected by what you were and weren't fed when you were a baby. In certain countries like Burundi, stunting is an epidemic. Over half of the children there suffer from chronic malnutrition. And it's not because there's a perennial drought or a lack of harvest. In fact, Burundi is a remarkably green nation. But the reason for their high levels of poverty and malnutrition is linked back to their civil war, when people were on the run from their own government for over a decade. During this time span, many Burundians lost touch with how to cook. Though the land around them was flush with vegetables and plants, they forgot how to make nutritious food for their children because they were so used to hiding in the daytime and running at night. They no longer had a connection to the land and had forgotten what foods were nutritious and good to eat. Thus, the children of Burundi, though they were blameless for the conflict, suffered while their mothers were forced to watch helplessly. However, UNICEF in Burundi came up with a simple and brilliant idea. They began to organize monthly weigh-in sessions for children, and mothers would walk for miles with their child to have them checked for malnutrition and other health issues, and to receive advice on how to raise a healthy child. But UNICEF also asked each mother to bring 1 plant or vegetable that they thought looked good to these sessions, and the staff would cook all of them and create healthy and balanced meals, sharing the recipes with the mothers. This is just one example of one way that UNICEF uses low-cost and low-tech innovations to help solve big problems. Another example of a cheap solution to stunting is Plum Peanut, a sweet and enriched peanut butter paste that only happens to cost 17 cents per bar. If you give a child who is dying of starvation Plum Peanut for a week, he or she will gain back about 2 pounds in that time frame. It's extremely cost-effective and is given to millions of children worldwide. Other children who used to have to go to hospitals to be treated for chronic malnutrition can now be treated in the comfort of their own home. This just goes to show you that even the littlest things can have a huge impact. And I believe that people like you who are sitting here have the capability to make a difference. You guys can think outside of the box, you possess boundless energy and passion, and you retain the idea that nothing is impossible. In fact, if any of you want to try and take a stab at improving how UNICEF responds in emergencies, I urge you to take part in the UNICEF Global Innovation Challenge. You can submit proposals on how to improve UNICEF's response in emergencies in the areas of energy, health, communications, and food and water. And anybody is eligible to submit ideas, and if you're selected, you can have the pleasure of seeing your ideas being implemented in the field. I hope that all of you are inspired today to dream big about what you can do to change the world. It may take time and effort, but most of all, it requires believers. UNICEF believes that one day there can be a world where 0 children are exploited, starving, or dying of preventable causes. I hope that now all of you can believe in 0 as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. Next, we have Cedric Muhala. Cedric Muhala is a community development worker, refugee activist, and youth motivator from the Democratic Republic of Congo. In 2007, he and his family fled to Uganda. While experiencing the struggle of being a refugee, Mr. Muhala founded the nonprofit organization Young African Refugees for Integral Development, also known as YARED. YARED is an organization dedicated to serving urban refugees in Uganda, especially in Kampala, Uganda. YARED helps refugees become self-sufficient by offering English classes, micro-enterprise opportunities, women's empowerment programs, and vocational trainings. It also helps to unite youth through soccer. Please join me in welcoming Cedric Muhala.
How are you guys feeling today? Are you excited? I know sometimes it's very hard to pronounce my name, and throughout my journey, everyone pronounced my name in his or her way. So you've got yours too. You know, as she said, my name is Cedric Murulantwali, but my name keeps changing throughout my life journey. And even when I came to the US, my name was changed to Cedric Twali. So circumstances in life always change my name. As she said, I'm from Congo, east part of Congo, where they always say it's a worse place for women to be, but don't be scared. And children, it's a worse place for people to be because of conflict and everything that is going into the part of the country. And that's where I'm originally from. I'm from Congo, east part of the Congo, where there is a lot of conflict, war, and rape, and everything that you can hear about. In a country where people live their land in search of peace and stability, people, entire villages, leave their places in seeking a way they can be good in their lives. When I'm talking about issues of land and environment today, you'll understand that some places in my country were having people in it, but because of rebel groups, an armed group that want to take over the places, all the entire village leave the place and go somewhere else. And those places are the places that are natural resources that rebels are fighting for. And you know, some of the land and environment issues that we can talk about ethnic problems, we can talk about unproductive land, we can talk about deforestation, we can talk about disasters. But in my country, none of those are the main problem of the conflict, but it's war. And in that same situation, my family was victim of the war and the conflict in my country, and decided to leave. You know, when your village is taken over, you really don't know where to go and what to do. Some people decide move from place to another one within the countries, and those people they call IDPs. And others move to some places or move the border to some other countries, and they are called refugees. So in between these two people, my family moved to Uganda. Growing up, just after I finished my high school, I didn't know Uganda. I didn't know if I can live or I can go somewhere else. But because of circumstances, war broke in the country, we just left. And in that situation, when you're living as a refugee, you don't know where to go. You don't know what direction to take. Whichever direction feels safe, that's where you go. And finally, my family found themselves in Kampala, Uganda. Being in Kampala, life wasn't easy. Being a child, 17 years old at that time, having 6 brothers behind me, my mom and my dad, life was really horrible. We live in 4x3 rooms. I know some people's bathrooms are bigger than 3x4 rooms, isn't it? We live 6 kids too, or 7 kids plus my parent in 3x4 rooms, whereby sometimes we eat once a day. We live in a place where savages running in front of our doors. Sometimes we sleep, and when it rains outside, it rains inside. We live in a place whereby my mom and my dad couldn't work. Life was really hard. Spending 2 years without going to school, either thinking of going to school. Life became so sad. Hopelessness and lack of seeing the future was a friend in us and make life very difficult. Not only me. Thousands of refugees were living in the same situations. Moving around the community, you'll see people have no future into their faces. Life was really horrible. Actually, we had 3x4 rooms with all the difficulties, but many people of my kind were living in the street. Some people were living in church halls where there is no roof, there is no windows. Other people were living in the police stations whereby they're surviving by a cup of porridge in a day. But seeing all these situations, seeing all the people of my age struggling, seeing families becoming hopelessness, I was like, we're gonna die in this situation. I woke up one day and decided to make change. I started talking to people in my community. I started visiting families, a 17 years kid. I started communicating bright future and hope into people. At the same time I was doing that, my life was full of sorrow and hopelessness. But I was strong, and I know that things can change. By talking to people, the other side, there was a strong conflict among Congolese, Rwandese, and Burundians due to the East African conflict. And there was nothing to do about that as a small boy with nothing to do that. But thanks God, through soccer, we united more than those communities by doing a lot of peace and conflict management, doing a lot of unity and peace groups to make them be together and work together as brothers and sisters. In less than 4 months of that exercise of my work, we gathered more than 200 refugee youth, girls and boys coming together and call themselves sisters and brothers through soccer. It was a big achievement in the period of refugees in Kampala. You're here today. You're here now. You're wondering what you can do. You're trying to ask yourself, I want to make change, but I don't know how I can make change. It doesn't matter either you're rich or poor to make change in your life. It doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy. It doesn't matter if you're tall or short. It doesn't matter if all those matters, I wouldn't have done anything in my life. It doesn't matter if you live in La Jolla or City Heights. Do you know La Jolla? Do you know City Heights? It's one of the refugees area in San Diego. It doesn't matter if you live in Tijuana or New Mexico. It doesn't matter if you're very smart in class to make change or if you get A's or C's. I'm not saying to get C's. You need to work hard. But it doesn't matter. You can still make change even though you have C's. It doesn't matter either you're 18, 16, 15. I started this journey when I was 15 years old. And today I'm 23 and I can still do it. And a lot of you guys can still do it. It doesn't matter if you have PhDs, degrees, masters to make change. You can pursue your career studies and make change in your community. In fact, change starts in your house, in your classroom, in your school, and then you can take it wherever you want it to be. It doesn't matter. All what I know is you can do it. Can you tell the person next to you, I can do it? No, I want to hear that. I can do it. Thank you. By doing that, there are a few things you need to know. You need to be determined. You need to endure and persevere. You need to love what you're doing, and you need to be positive. If I wasn't positive, if I didn't endure, I wouldn't have done anything in my life because half of my life was being struggle and sorrows. But you can do it. And I always tell to people, no matter what situation you're facing, either good or bad, you can still change the world. And I like this quote of Mahatma Gandhi that says, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. Can you tell the person next to you, you must be the change you wish to see in the world? Some people are looking at me, they don't say, you must be the change you need to see in the world. I hope today everyone is going to make a decision of his or her life and make change from where you're coming from and from all the information that you're going to get today. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mihuela. We now have time for a few questions from all of you. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and a volunteer will come by with a microphone. Please be sure to say who your question is directed to so we don't have any confusion. Okay, let's see who our first person is. Looks like we have someone. Okay. Do we have any hands? Okay. We got someone in the front here? Okay. 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 Thank you. Okay.
My question is for Mr. Mahula. And what was the hardest part about starting Yared?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I think the hard part of starting Yerid was uniting refugees from different countries. If you know the story of East African countries, Congolese, Rwandese, and Burundians has been having trouble. So uniting those people has been one of the hard times in my life. That's one, because make people understand seeing your age and you don't have anything is not easy, but soccer made it possible. The second thing was when my mom passed away. I was in the middle of big change, but our house got burnt and my mom passed away. I was discouraged, but it wasn't the end of the world. Those are the two biggest challenges at the very beginning. Thanks.
My question goes to Anita Raj. As a psychologist, you said that you care about the behavior, right? About the people. Well, what do you think about the impact of regulating marijuana in Colorado? What will be the impact between the citizens in that state?
Is it on? Okay. Wow. That is a very controversial question. Based on the research, I'm a proponent of the legalization of marijuana, and that. And the reasons for that are that based on the health effects that we've seen, I actually think that the health effects thus far that we've seen are more severe for alcohol than for marijuana. The level of addictivity but I believe that there needs to be the very a legal oversight of its distribution. So do I think, restate the question, do I think that we'll have harmful effects on society? Is that, yeah? No. No, I don't. I do think, and this is very hard for me because I have my daughter in the audience who I think is for the very first time hearing her mother's views on this particular topic. I do believe that the data does not indicate that it is a gateway drug to higher level. The majority of people who try marijuana do not engage in drugs that I do think need to remain illegal, such as cocaine, such as heroin. I think that there is substantial evidence of their harmful health effects and the harmful effects on society. With regard to marijuana, I do think it needs to be regulated, and just because I think it's legal doesn't mean I think it's smart.
Well, my question is for Muhula. I don't know if I pronounce it okay. Sorry. But how do you find like that little spark inside you to make like a big change in your situation where everything was dark, I guess, or how you were feeling in that moment?
Come again?
Well,
Maybe that's too American English. Just goes.
well, sorry. It's like, where do you find like the inspiration in that dark moment to make that big change? You know?
The inspiration was coming from my family, where I was seeing the hard moment and the tough time that my parents and my family were facing, and I didn't want it to continue in that way. So I want to make change into like giving hope to my family, my mom and my dad. And also seeing around my community, it was really darkness and hopelessness for everyone. So I just felt like there was a need that needs to be done, and that's where, it started. Thank you.
Hi guys. I want to ask. It's kind of like a multi-question between Annie and oh my gosh, excuse me, Cedric. So I wanted to ask: has UNICEF done any education relief for the place that he's been in Uganda, or have you advanced in any education reliefs for from UNICEF?
Yeah, if I may go first. UNICEF does a lot of work, not only in Uganda, even in a country originated from Congo, and it works a lot. But also, UNICEF works more in Kampala too, and especially in a refugee settlement, whereby they assist little kids into scholastic materials and other stuff and clean water, as she said. So to me, UNICEF is a big and huge organization that is trying to do a lot of stuff in my eyes and what I've witnessed.
Hi, yes. UNICEF does work in a lot of refugee camp situations, for example, right now in Syria. What they do is there are a couple of primary objectives. One of them is education, as Mr. Morales said. We have a thing called School in a Box, which is a box about this big. And it has enough scholastic materials for 40 students and 1 teacher. So we distribute these to refugee camps. We also put a huge emphasis on wash or water access, sanitation, hygiene, to make sure that children and everyone in these refugee camps have access to clean and safe drinking water.
So this question is for Annie Kim. How did you get involved in UNICEF, and what is your favorite part about seeing the results of your work?
So I got involved in the US Fund for UNICEF through this Global Citizenship Fellow Program. It's a fellowship program that has locations in 8 cities, including Los Angeles, New York, DC, etc. So I've always been interested in this whole idea of international affairs and helping others. When I was younger, I took a trip to Thailand. I was 10 years old. And I saw a child my age digging through garbage, like looking for food to eat. And I saw that, and I thought, how lucky am I, and how much change that there needs to be done. And ever since then, I've sort of guided my life down that path of helping others and service. So when this fellowship position came up, it's a great position if you want to get out into the community, educate, and raise awareness of global issues. I took it without hesitation, and because it is something that I absolutely believe in. That the whole the community absolutely deserves to learn more about global issues.
Hi. I just wanted to ask you all, what was your ambition to make you want to be what you are today?
I feel like I'm answering not politic on a lot of issues. I fell into it. I saw a movie called And the Band Played On, which was not even reading the book. I saw the movie. And it was about how public health was denied by the governmental funding the opportunity to address the AIDS crisis when it first started, and how a group of renegade scientists basically went behind the government's back and started using the supplies from the government to figure out what was going on with the AIDS epidemic and address the concern, and then took on the government with the findings and said, you got to do something, you've got to make a change, you're being irresponsible. And I think that was a similar issue that occurred with regard to tobacco and the tobacco industry. And I would add that with regard to marijuana, health effects of smoking anything is going to damage your lungs, so always bear that in mind. So I just loved the idea that I could be a scientist, have a job with a regular old salary, because I really wanted a house that I could buy, and but I could actually fight the system and make change. So I sort of fell into it.
For me, my explanation's a little silly, but when I was younger, I really wanted to be a Jedi Knight. And I thought the next best thing would be sort of being like an ambassador or working in international relations, creating peace. So that's sort of what got me here.
think to me, not expecting to be a refugee one day and displaced person has inspired me to be who I am today, but also seeing how refugees are neglected worldwide. I wanted just to be the voice of voiceless and at least talk on their behalf and talk and say what I see and what I face in life.
This question is for Anita. Anita, when you mention gender equity and you talk about child marriages and link it to pedophilia, how do you mediate cultural beliefs and practices with what we consider in the United States child abuse?
That is a fantastic question and goes beyond the issue of girl-child marriage. And I think this is something that we probably all have to address, because there are Western notions, or even within the context of same countries or societies, educated notions of what is appropriate versus inappropriate behavior, or normal versus not typical behavior, right? And so who are we as outsiders to put that on to individuals when we are not from that culture, we are not from that community, we are not from that country? It is a really fundamental question that I think anybody engaging in global health, global affairs, global studies in any aspect has to think about, because we're often not from the same areas in which we work. For me, the way I take that on is to say, I'm not defining what is right or wrong for you as an individual trying to make the best decisions for your child. What I want to do is share with you what the health impact is going to be on your child. And an example of that is in India, where we see about 45% of young people marry before, girls specifically, marry before the age of 18 years. We did a study and we just looked at what does that mean for infant mortality. So for 15 to 24-year-olds, the fact that girls are marrying at under the age of 18, combined the fact that they're not engaging in contraception use, or they're engaging in contraception use at very low levels once married, that accounted for 150,000 infant deaths in 2012. 150,000 infants died because of these practices. So when we try to tackle these issues, it's about sharing the knowledge we have to support the decisions that people want to be able to make for their families, because we find that most people are invested in wanting to do the best things they can for their children.
Thank you.
This goes for Murhula, Mr. Murhula?
Cedric.
Cedric, okay. How was your experience when you first came to United States as a refugee? Did you get it like easy? Because some people get to think that United States is like a perfect place for everyone, and you will be welcome with, we will be welcoming, and you will get everything you need. How was for you?
Yeah, the first thing I thought I was gonna be a millionaire when I come to US, but it wasn't what I was thinking about. The experience coming to US is very different, and how people see US outside US is totally different too. I know people that have been abroad, and especially in Africa, know this. So being here or experience being in the US was really really tough, and the very big strong one is the culture, which is like very different, very different. I'm not saying it's bad or good, but different, which was really mostly to me. Thank you.
This is for Annie Kim, and I was wondering, because you do a whole bunch of work about helping people who just have problems, but do you do work for people who have natural disasters happen to them, like the tsunami in Japan or in Thailand and stuff?
Absolutely. UNICEF was one of the first on the ground, or actually UNICEF already had offices in the Philippines when Super Typhoon Haiyan hit.
And it was actually there because there was another storm or disaster a few weeks beforehand, and they had refugee camps set up already. So UNICEF works in emergency relief and natural disasters. They'll be there helping, like I said, School in a Box. They'll be in Haiyan. They're the UN lead on WASH, which is the Water Access and Sanitation Hygiene programs. They're also there with therapeutic food assistance for children who are malnourished. And they will provide any support systems and create child-friendly spaces for these kids who've been traumatized, maybe lost family members or friends, and help them sort of regain that normalcy as much as they can in these camps. Sorry.
Hi, this question is for Anita Raj. What do you think about the anti-gay propaganda law in Russia?
As someone who works in Russia and works on the issue of HIV in Russia, I think it is a grave human rights violation. I am horrified by it, and I think we actually have to politicize and be active about really speaking out against it and to try to work with the Russian government to get this changed. The statements being made by Putin right now are, to me, deeply disturbing. This is a very vulnerable population. Gay men had a history, people who had sexual relations with same-sex partners, it had a very recent history of having to register harassment by police. This is not, unfortunately, as surprising as many in the international press might display it. There has been concerns about treatment of gay people in the country for some time, but this law is deeply disturbing and, to me, a fundamental human rights violation.
Okay, thank you everyone. That is all the time we have for questions today. Please keep in mind if you still have questions, because I still see hands raised. You will have a briefing session with these beautiful speakers. If you cannot have a briefing session with them, they will be here during lunch to answer your questions. Okay, so next we will have Maya and Adrian back on the stage, and they will, great. I do need this. Okay. And I'd like to welcome Maya Lakshman and Adrian Estrada back to the stage, and they will give you further instructions to your next location. Thank you.
Weren't they amazing? Please join us again in giving them another round of applause.
Now, let's get this day started. We'll now be moving to the briefing session portion of the day. As a group, we'll walk to the John B. Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice building, so please be sure to take all of your materials with you.
You will exit the same doors that you came in and walk towards the main entrance of this building, where we will make a right towards the IPJ building. Be sure to stay with this group.
To locate your first session, please refer to the group number on your name tag. That number will direct you to the specific briefings you will attend. Consult the briefing sessions list on page 4 of your program and attend the session that corresponds to your group number. You may only attend the briefing sessions that you're assigned to due to space limitations and discussion purposes.
If you have any questions throughout the day, please approach any of our wonderful volunteers with green name tags. Thank you, and we hope you have an incredible experience. Have a great day.